So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back once again to the watch market update show. I had a little bit of turbulence, like an airplane. I had a little bit of turbulence out there, so we're back again. I think we're back. I think Kino was able to fix a couple of things he had to fix up, and we fixed it, so we're back again. All right. Creo que está trabajando. Sí. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, before I get into the show, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and give us a thumbs up, right? Please don't forget that. That way they know that we really have a real fan base, a real. So again, thank you again for your patience, and I'm sorry for the, whatever happened. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Don't forget that. I'm telling you, it's the best thing you can do, is doing that. Kino's unbelievable. He fixed everything up already, It was thunder lightning. They hit the antenna, TV antenna, but we're back. We're back again. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, today has been a great day, Precious metal materials have been holding on very, very well. I think I told you the prices, but I'm going to tell you again. Rhodium is at $7,125. Palladium is at $1,288. Silver is at $47 a troy ounce. Everything is a troy ounce. And platinum is at $1,612 a troy ounce. But the big boy of the day is gold again, ladies and gentlemen. I know that I've been talking to you about gold for a while already. Gold is at $3,872 a troy ounce. It's unbelievable. I started talking to you guys about gold some years ago, and a lot of people asked me who made you the king of gold and whatever. People were getting all kind of salty and bitter with that subject, but I left it alone. And I remember I told you guys at that time probably was the kilo was at 46, 45, 44, 48,000 dollars a kilo. And today, ladies and gentlemen, is at $129,000 a kilo. So just to let you guys know what's going on, gold is is going all the way up to the moon. Gold is going all the way to the moon. Just do things correctly. I'm not giving you guys any kind of advices. I'm buying any kind of precious materials. For the people out there that hear me, I'm not giving them any kind of direction what to do. I'm just telling them what the prices are. That's what I'm telling them, So please, don't, aflojen conmigo. We have a good show, ladies and gentlemen. We have a real good show, and you have China and India. They're just buying all the gold they can find. Even them knowing that gold is going all the way to the moon, they're buying all the gold they can get. China and India, unbelievable. Two powerful players in the gold, the gold market. These two people are tearing it apart, So just this is not no financial advice, no stuff. I'm not nothing. I'm here for free. This is a public service watch announcement channel to all the people that are interested in hearing what's going on with the prices. That's what I'm giving. A mí no me dan ni un beso me dan a mí. Not even a hug they give me. This is all for free. So I wanted to tell you that, ladies and gentlemen, what's happening in that part of the world, what they're doing. Every single channel you turn on today, to all of you out there, you need to know this. Every single channel out there is blowing up gold. People are coming out of the woodworks with pounds and pounds of gold. I'm talking about pounds and pounds. If you go to any platform, social media platform, everybody is, dealing with gold. I don't want to. No lo quiero asustar. I don't want to scare you people, but it's a frenzy. I don't know what the word frenzy is, but it's a frenzy. It's a frenzy out there. Everybody's going bananas, and we're talking about people. They're taking out millions and millions of dollars right in front of your your computer screen, whatever you look at in the internet, it's all over the place. People are going crazy. They're taking out all their money and putting it in gold, ladies and gentlemen. And I gotta talk about this because I have to penetrate. Tengo que penetrar. I have to penetrate all of you because you have to know what's happening. This is not a game. When you see this happening, and I told you, somebody said the other day, when it hits $5,000 a troy ounce, it's gonna be chaos out there. Somebody said that. Chaos. I think that's the word they use, chaos. I don't know what chaos means too much. I think it's something like people go bananas, they go mad. So it's starting to, and I said it the other day to you people. I said, listen, when it hits to 4,000, no se asusten, don't get scared. And the people from all over the world are coming out in their cars, opening the trunks of their cars full of gold. Not the ounces, something bigger than an ounce. All over the place, ladies and gentlemen. I'm excited about this, but I have to tell you about all these things so you know what's going on. I want you to know right now, this person said this. This banker said this. And the banker said, gold is like the art market. Gold is like the art market. Declares Citibank. Citibank declares that gold is like the art market. El arte, Picasso, Van Gogh. You need to hear this today because, we might get another, and over there, in my tower, my TV tower, and might blow a fuse and, go crazy. But what I'm telling you is not a joke. It's for real. When I've been telling you people, when you see bankers are involved in all this, bankers are involved. Los bancos son una jodienda. The banks are something special. And they are saying it. Gold is like the art market. Like the art market. Everybody's going nuts. Everybody's going bananas. Everybody wants a piece of the action. Pero nosotros somos los lambones. We're lambones because, when it was nice and easy to get, nobody wanted it. Who made you the king of gold? Why are you saying this? Blah, 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 blah. And now the gold is at $3,872 an ounce, climbing to $4,000 an ounce, ladies and gentlemen. And ladies and gentlemen, since I talked to you about Citibank, that bank, Citi, saying that. Also, another banker said these words, and it's incredible. They were saying that gold gains are getting better. Listen to this, what they're saying. Listen to what I'm going to say. Gold gains are getting better. Or I said it wrong. They're better than beer. Corona beer. Corona beer. Corona beer. Gold gains are better than Corona beer. And guess what else, ladies and gentlemen? I come here with the truth. Today, I don't feel like coming out blazing. But I'm going to tell you, their gains are better than Corona beers and better than iPhones. iPhones. The phone. The telephone. iPhone. Those phones. You know what it is to say something like that, ladies and gentlemen? Mr. Blair, please help me out with this situation. You know what it is to say that gold, the gains of gold are better than beer. Tú sabes cómo está el borracho por la calle, el borracho. You know how many drunks all over the world drinking beer? You know that? You know how many people playing with, Pokemon in the iPhone? And gold gains are better than beer and iPhones. Just to let you know what's going on. Because when I come here, I come to talk to you for real. Listen to me. If I get another thunder lightning, I shut down everything. I told Kino, vámonos para el carajo de aquí y se terminó el show. You know? Because what I'm bringing here is the truth and nothing but the truth. So help me God. That's it. You know, I'm telling you what's going on. If we get another thunder lightning, we close. So if you want to shoot a thunder lightning, shoot it already and go. That's how I feel today. You know, I feel like I want to help you guys out, but you know what's going on. This is the #1 watch market update show in the world. You know, chosen by no other than Fudinki. And also by us, self-proclaimed as #1. Ladies and gentlemen, most of you out there believe that the Fed, the Federal Reserve, is controlled by the United States government. But I gotta tell you, ladies and gentlemen, to you that don't know that, that's not true. That's not true. The Fed is privately owned. Listen and learn. Privately earned. Listen to me. In 1910, you guys might see me as a Meshuggah, you know, and I like that. But I know a little bit, you know. I was a student. I was a student of learning and sitting down and learning, you know. You understand what I'm trying to say? So these 7 men got together in 1910 and they went to Jekyll Island, you know. Jekyll Island, they got together over there. They were these powerful men, you know, powerful men. And the people that got together over there in that island, ladies and gentlemen, you're not gonna believe me, but it's unbelievable. You know, you had there J.P. Morgan. You know, J.P. Morgan, ladies and gentlemen. You got J.D. Rockefeller in Georgia, correct? Gracias, Nelson. Gracias, papá, por ayudarme. You can all help me out. When I say something wrong, you know what I'm trying to say. You fix it for me. We don't want no more thunder lightning, you know? Let them think yo estoy loco, you know? You know what I'm trying to say, Mr. Donut. You know? J.D. Rockefeller and Paul Warburg. So they will call J.P. Morgan Mr. Wall Street. Unbelievable. What a name. Wall Street. They will call him, J.P. Morgan was called Wall Street. J.D. Rockefeller was the industrial power. The industrial power. Listen and learn. You know? J.D. Rockefeller was the industrial power. And Mr. Paul Warburg, he was the architect. Unbelievable. The architect. The architect, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm trying to say, Mr. Donut. You know what I'm trying to say. And then you had Jacob Schiff. Rothschild. You know? Jacob Rothschild Schiff. You know? Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen, you know, the Rothschild Bridge. They will call that the Rothschild Bridge. El Puente. You know, El Puente. Esto es increíble. What these people did, these seven gentlemen, not even today at this futuristic time when they can't even do that today. These people eran una jodienda, masterminds, you know? 7 of them, ladies and gentlemen, 7 of them. And then you had Nelson Eldjack, the political. He was the political front man. Because I told you that all this, you need a politician. You know, you need the bankers, you need the politician. You know, they're all there. 7 men, ladies and gentlemen. 7 men. Then you had Henry Davidson. You know who Henry Davidson was? You know, does anybody know who Henry Davidson was? I challenge any of you out there to tell me who was Henry Davidson. Go ahead, Google it up. Google it up, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be in shock. You're going to be shocked. But I'm going to tell you because I'm stupid like that. You know, Henry Davidson was a J.P. Morgan operator. Una jodienda, papi. It was a machine. It was a machine, ladies and gentlemen. It was a machine. It was a machine, ladies and gentlemen. And then you had Benjamin. You know, Benjamin. He was the first. These people were something else, ladies and gentlemen. These people were esta gente were a machine. You know, they were a machine, ladies and gentlemen. I gotta tell you, 1910, and they were all together doing this for us. For us. They got together. They all got together. These, 7 brains got together. But ladies and gentlemen, the truth, the final truth, they didn't do a banking, they didn't do a banking. What they did was a machine. What they did was a machine, una máquina, that controls. Ladies and gentlemen, they did a machine. Esto hijo de la gran puta. Son unos cerebros, these were minds, These seven Michiganders got together, their brain. They did a machine. They didn't do a bank. They didn't do a bank. They did a machine. And you know what that machine did, ladies and gentlemen? You have to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. That machine that controls, that's a machine that controls every dollar that you and me ever made. Unbelievable, these people, Todo controlado. That is who the Fed is. The Fed. Coño, eso es algo. Nelson, dime algo. Ayúdame, Nelson. Mr. Donna, help me out. Tell me. You know what it is to have control of that? You have all the control of basically everything. The money, interest rates, la jodienda. These 7 people got together. That is the truth, ladies and gentlemen. And that is what you're seeing today. That is what you're seeing today. Esta gente, papi, the same blueprint they did in 1910 is today. They follow them to the T. They follow them to the T, ladies and gentlemen. You know what I'm trying to say with you people out there. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to give you, these bad people, really bad. Coño. You know what it is to say we control. You might be saying, so this is the government. No. Estos machos. This is why when I tell you people about the Rothschilds, when I talk to you about the Morgans, when I talk to you about, the Rockefellers, you look at me like, what is this? Este sapo hablando. No, yo no soy sapo. El sapo son ustedes. El sapo son ustedes. Que le estoy explicando de gratis. I'm explaining to you this for free. And these people controlled every single thing, papi. Controlado, seteado, And you saw there were 7 men. 7, there were seven people, 7. I told you the names there, right? I told you all their names. But ladies and gentlemen, when it's all said and done, they had that politician, The politician, whatever he said went. El politiquero ese era el diablo también, estaba cruzado. He was the devil too, he was there. But like I told you, when they all hang out together, somebody is going to trick another one because nobody is loyal in those 7 people, Do you know who stood in control from those 7 people that were left there? I told you, please tell me who they were. Who were the 7 people that stood behind, Tell me who were the 3. Only 3 of them stood around. Who were they? And the rest, váyanse de aquí ya. We don't need you no more. Who were they? You know who they were? A little bit of, that's one. That's one right there. That's one. You know it. That's one right there. Give me 2. Ladies and gentlemen, number 2 is Rockefellers. Number 2. Rockefellers. And number 3, no, Achilles is not Vanguard. And number 3 is the Rothschilds. Esos son los que controlan todo, papi. They control everything. Now, how is it that basically those blueprints, they were done for us, for the United States of America, but basically the whole world, you know, one way or the other, the money from the other side of the world comes to our country, America. Everybody follows those blueprints, papi, to the T. To the T, papi. Por eso que estamos como estamos. We're upside down. They can do this whenever they want. They can put it upside down, sideways, whatever you want. Yo y tú somos unos lambones. You know? You know it, of course. But you know what, Mr. Donor? I can only tell so much to my organic watch channel subscribers. No lo puedo marear. I can't get them dizzy because, people still believe that the Fed is the governments and the governments do this, the government does that, and this, that, You know what I'm saying? Esto es una jodienda. Esto es una jodienda. Esto es lo que hay. Esto es una jodienda. And people have to start, putting on their glasses to understand what's happening. We have been, this is all rigged, man. This is all rigged. How can these 7 men decide what to do with, con el dinero de los otros? Esa gente, every time you spend, whatever you spend, they make money. Every day. It's a machine. Whatever you spend, they get a cut. They get a cut. They get a cut. This is like the Matrix, This is like the Matrix, but nobody's going to tell you this because, this is not, esta gente está metido en De Batún, en Gerald Forsey, Reloj Forsey, esto para allá, Hublot, this, that. But they don't tell you what's happening. I'm telling you what's happening so you can see the bigger picture of what's coming your way. You understand me? So this is so you guys know where the Fed comes from, how it was developed, and who are the, papi, tú sabes lo que decir, the Morgans, the Rockefellers, and the Rothschilds, dominando todo. No hay forma, papi. There's no hay forma. It was made in a way that every time you spend a penny, they get the cut. They get the cut. Y el gobierno callado, más nada. So I'm letting you know about that so you know what's going on. There were 7 men, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm telling you again, when somebody is telling you that gold right now, it has better gains than beer, cerveza, and iPhones, you know what's going on. You know what's going on. Somebody else said today something else that, we were able to read and look at and try to understand. Some people are saying that when that guy from Pennsylvania Avenue leaves, Pennsylvania Avenue, when he leaves, this is what they're saying. The goal is going to be, I really don't agree with that, but I'm going to pass you this too because, you guys don't have all day to be looking at all these things, and I have a little computer that I look at everything and I see what's happening and I hear this and Kino sends me a text and all that good stuff. But this one, I read it and it says when the guy leaves from Pennsylvania Avenue, when he finishes his term, they're saying that gold is going to be at, and it's not far from what that guy said, Mr. Wood. You know what that guy said, Wood, Christopher Wood. What he said $6,600 a troy ounce of gold. They're saying that when the guy from Pennsylvania Avenue leaves, gold is going to be at $7,000 a troy ounce. Pennsylvania Avenue still has, I don't know, I think he still has, 3 years, right? 3 years, 2 years, I don't know. You know what I'm saying? So this is what but these are the experts, these experts vienen de la misma, they're connected to, to the Fed, they're connected because these people, everything that I have said to you people is because I have read on these sort of people, Rockefellers, you know what I'm trying, the Morgans, all this, and everything has come out like that, Papa. Everything like that, man, like that, like that. So what I'm trying to tell you is, like somebody showed me, Thurston Howard the third told me, no, 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 I'm not giving here nobody no advice. I think that's the way Thurston Howard said it. I don't know how he said it, but you know what I'm trying to say. I'm not here giving you no advice. I'm not here trying to get you to buy this. No, 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 no. Don't buy nothing from me. You just, if you want to hear me, you hear me. If you don't, te vas. You know? Tú sabes, knowledge. Knowledge is power. And I'm going to bring you knowledge always, And they say, you know what? We can't get this guy. We can't get Kino. We can't get Juan because he's like a teacher. He's like a teacher, a teacher without a degree. I'm a teacher without a degree. Yo soy un lambón y un palomo, I don't have no degree. I don't have nothing. But, I read and I try to tell you in my own wrinkled way, I'm not going to give it to you press. No, 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 no. You want press? You go over there. You go see those clowns over there. The ones that have been doing this to you for too long. I give it to you for free. So I want you to understand what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. You are being attacked right now. And if you're smart, look at it, but don't get overexcited. When you look at all these different platforms showing you a big treasure full of blocks of gold, Papi, those people over there and the other side, those people, what they have in gold is sickening. It's sickening. What the little documents that I have seen in the last, I don't know when was my last live stream. I think it was 2 days ago. What you see, what these people have taken out, it's like a casket, where they put the people when they die. It's gold fever. Gold fever. Thank you, Dr. E. Gold fever. The people are crazy. It got out of my hands. You know what I've been telling you. People are now going crazy. People are driving now their Mercedes-Benz G-Wagon or whatever you call it. And then they open the back of the door and it's full of blocks of kilos of gold. And kilos of gold, ladies and gentlemen, it's scary, it's chaos. The Wild Wild West. I don't know how to tell you this no more. I don't know how to tell you this. And ladies and gentlemen, sí, quiero, yo quería tranquilizarme, pero no me puedo tranquilizar porque estoy agitado. I wanted to tell you guys today in a very calm way, but I can't. I'm telling Kino in Spanish because he's telling me, baja. But I'm telling you because it's getting out of control. When you start looking and you start looking at magazines, you start looking at videos, you start looking at that platform, this platform, that platform, and you say, coño, pero see what my friends, what they have is nothing. What they have is, you're talking about 300 pounds, 400 pounds in gold. 400, what is this? You're talking about something that's crazy, ladies and gentlemen. Not even these people. Not even these people. You know what I'm trying to say, Nelson? You know what I'm trying to say, Bobby? So it's getting crazy out there. And somebody used the right terminology the other day, and they say when this thing hits, I say 4,000. I can smell it already, 3872, ¿qué es lo que falta para 4,000? What do we need for 4,000? We need $130 more. That's it, 4,000. And people are going crazy. But somebody said, listen, when that thing hits 5,000 an ounce, papi, you have to be in the streets con tu 38 guardado, con tu 38. Tiene que andar engabanado. You know what engabanado is? You know what engabanado is? Engabanado. Engabanado, papi. And look at this. Mr. Donor is telling me 5,000 is light work. Mr. Donor, I just finished telling you that the people are going crazy. Turn on whatever you want. You go to the internet, press the button, and people are going crazy. Opening up, Sí, Pedro Navaja, papi. Pedro Navaja. Tú sabes lo que hay, bye. And this is crazy. So you gotta be very, very careful out there, because if they see you, they see you with a gold chain, with a crucifix, they might, te pueden limpiar. Te pueden limpiar. Ponte una cadena de plata, put some silver on. Leave that gold is not to be putting it on today. All those Cubans that live here in Miami, Florida with those dog chains, they better watch it. All those Cubans in downtown with big fat dog chains, they gotta watch it, because se lo van a echar a pico, papi. Se lo van a echar a pico. I know what I'm trying to tell you, ladies and gentlemen. I know what I'm trying to tell you. Estos cubanitos que están por allá por la 10 y la 5 de Southwest, le van a caer la pata por las nalgas. A patar por las nalgas con todos ellos. You don't understand what's going on, ladies and gentlemen out there. Somebody used the right word before. They used, this is the wild, wild west. Esto está peligroso. Tiene que andar, mira, engabanado, porque si no te van a limpiar. This is not, And then you have all those gold watches, which they were daubed with fleas. All those gold watches were daubed with fleas. And now they have become number one now. Number one. Number one, yeah. My money's there, People that bought, just scrap, gold, junk, and put it there. Today is a treasure, man. Today is a treasure. So I'm trying to prepare you guys for what's happening. I explained to you about, I go in phases. I explained to you a little bit about the Fed. I explained to you the price of gold. I explained to you that China and India are buying Oye, papi, pero how? China and India, what do you know that we don't know? When you're still buying all the gold you can get your hands on. What do you know? Somebody help me out. Don't be afraid, write it down. Somebody, what do they know? China and India are buying all the gold they can get their hands on. And they don't care if tomorrow it goes to 5,000. They're still going to keep on buying. They're still going to keep on buying. Oye, when you start using, hey, let me tell you something, guys. I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I'm probably one of the most. I've been self-taught. Self-taught. Yo mismo me aprendí. I didn't have too many people to teach me. But when you hear things that, because these are the analogies these monsters use. They say, well, gold has better gains than beer and than iPhones. When I first read that, I had to register, like, ¿qué dice este tipo? Que la cerveza y iPhone. Coño. You know what to say, that gold at this moment has better gains. Oye, la cerveza, tú sabes cómo están los borrachos por la calle. You know how many drunk people out there drinking Budweisers and Schaefer? And my father would drink Schaefer. May God have him up there. Beautiful. He was a Schaefer man. Unbelievable. Better than iPhones and beer. It really made me think, what are they saying by this? Until I understood it. It took me a couple of minutes until I got it. Rango beer. Rango beer in Shea Stadium in New York. That's the beer my father would drink with my uncle. People, they would go see. We were sitting in nosebleeders and drink, Rango beer. When the Mets won the World Series in '69. It's another day for that. But I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, la situación. They're saying, these so-called experts, that by the time the guy leaves from Pennsylvania Avenue, gold would be at $7,000 a troy ounce. And I'm going to ask all of you this question: do you believe that it will take that long? Because I think this man has in power still. He has like 3 more years in power. So if they're saying $7,000, they're saying it's going to go. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're right. Most of the time they're right. To be honest, I think before that. There you go. I think before that. I said, coño, $7,000. We made it to 4,000. We're there. We're already at $4,000 a troy ounce. We need like a buck 30, and we're at 4,000. And I told you guys, and I'm wrong, because I told you guys, Bobby, when this hits $5,000 an ounce, I'm cashing in. And somebody told me, you can't cash in. You can't. You can't. You're going to miss the bus. You're not going to get in the metro bus, the buses we have in the city in New York, You're not going to get in the bus. You're not going to get in the bus. You're not going to be able to use your card, your bus pass, So hold on. And honestly, I have to hold on. I have to hold on because this is going faster than what I thought. Está peligroso. So I thought I should tell you all that. You know what's going on. Don't. How can I say this? You have to be very in top of what's happening out there, reading, hearing, because that's the only way. This is a chess game. This is not about, he told me, my advisor told me, my portfolio told me. It's you. You need to listen, man, ladies and gentlemen. The truth is the truth. It is sad to go to Publix grocery store and you see people buying with half a cart. Half a cart, they're spending $300 in groceries. ¿Con qué culo se sienta la cucaracha? We're getting hit. Uh-oh. That's incredible. I can't believe are we getting hit again? Can you guys hear me? Qué locura. Se jodió esto. That's right. That's right. Truth. That's right. Half a cart, half a cart, the Winn-Dixie, Publix, Whole Foods, they're pushing them and they have $300 in groceries. Even if you're getting a handout from the government, no te alcanza. No te alcanza el dinero. Even if you're getting some kind of handout from the government, that money won't give you for nothing. What can you buy? Canned goods, and canned goods are getting real expensive. So la situación está bien jodida, muchacho. You got to be very, and also another thing that I want to tell all of you something, guys. I do this for you guys because I want to do it for you for free, because I'm like that, Me and Kino to me, Joaquin to you, we're like that. But I'm going to ask all of you a favor, man. Whatever you guys know, help out your neighbor, help out your colleague at work. Let them know what's going on. There's people out there that just skip hopping around through life like rabbits, and they don't know what's going on. They don't know. They don't know what's going on. You have too many things that are being, too many things that are being said out there. They're also saying that there's a big meteorite, like the meteorite that goes in a watch. It's floating around and it might hit Earth. All these things they're saying to people, But it's more than that. La situación está jodida. No hay dinero, papi. No hay dinero, No hay dinero para nada. There's no money para nada. No hay cama para tanta gente. So, be good to each other, because the world is upside down, ladies and gentlemen. The world is upside down, and people are doing, crazy things out there. The world is falling apart. The world is falling apart, ladies and gentlemen. Like all those movies that I have recommended to you and you guys have recommended to me. Esto está jodido, papi. The world is falling apart and full of chaos. Full of chaos. And somebody has to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, somebody has to tell you. And I got to tell you because, you know what I'm trying to tell you. And if you go back to what happened, 2 weeks ago with that gentleman that I told you, if you guys are smart, you guys will say, it's incredible that, Juan Nieves was telling us that if somebody goes to the streets and starts talking, think about what I told you, and he starts talking and he starts talking about preaching about this, preaching about politics, about the president, about that. I was telling you all that, and nobody listens to you, there's no problem. The ICA doesn't say a word to you, leave him alone. He's a mashugana, and un lambón, and un palomo, right? I told you that like a month ago, ladies and gentlemen. I spoke to you about that. I explained to you about that. When you're talking and nobody listens to you, there's no problem. The moment you start talking and they start listening to you is when you have a problem. I don't know what happened to that gentleman over there in Utah, that he got assassinated. But right after I told you that, se lo echaron a pico. Se lo echaron. So what I'm trying to tell you is, the guy over there, that Charlie Kirk, And I explained to you about the guy from Japan, that he was in the square also talking and saying things, and they didn't even hide. Boom, 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 y más nada. So we have a lot of things that are not right. Some people today don't even believe, Some people today don't even believe that that gentleman that got assassinated is really assassinated. But that's another story for another day. I'm just trying to tell you how the world is. When I say the world, the world is full, it's falling apart. It's falling apart and full of chaos. I don't want to sound like the guy, in the square talking, but I'm explaining to you right after I told you that, you talk too much, you got clipped. So, hay que tener mucho cuidado. Okay, muchachos, hay que tener mucho cuidado. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to change the conversation to something else that we need to address. Kino gave me instructions on this, and I must oblige to what he tells me because I am the voice of this channel, and Kino is the owner of this channel. And Kino says there's a lot of things that are not fair to him. Not to me, because I don't care, but to him. He says they're not fair. He's also putting me in this conversation, Kino's putting me in this. But ladies and gentlemen, a lot of the people that you're watching today out there, those different Buffett, Boiler Room, secondary, gray watch market channels, don't have no more content. They don't have no more content for you now. So now what they're doing to you guys is, they have become now pushers of different watch brands, micro brands, this brand, that brand, and this is how they're making some coins, some pocket change, by doing that, They're also doing now memberships, to get perks in their channel. And Kino is saying that people are doing these. This is what Kino says. Lo voy a decir como tú me lo explicaste. Kino is saying that a lot of people are doing a lot of these private memberships to get perks, inside their channel, and they're gonna tell you things are happening in the watch business analysis, watch market updates, and all that, right? And Kino was telling me, I want you to know something, cuz, all these channels are doing this, and basically they are using all your free content that you're giving out there. Not everybody gets to see my show. Right now I have 32 organic watch channel subscribers with 23 thumbs up. Not everybody gets to see my channel, but the rest of the Muppet Boiler Room secondary gray watch market channels get to see me. They get to see me, and they get to see my watch market update, and it's open. Open doors. Open doors, like having your channel, your like having your platform. Like having your platform. And you know what I'm trying to say. You know what I'm trying to say. So Kino was telling me, Kino's a man. He's a very bright mind. And he says to me, these people are using. Oh, it's back again? Oh boy. It's back again. Wow. Are you guys hearing me? Are you guys hearing me? No kidding. Alex, can you hear me, Alex? Yes, okay. So super. So I want to tell all of you this. All these channels are now banking on membership, 6-month membership, 7-month membership, a year membership to get all these perks, about analysis, watch market updates, stories, things are going behind. And Kino was telling me that what they're doing is they're using all of our content, and basically, I'm doing this because the one that has a brilliant mind that he can do this. We can do a show if we want every single day with a different topic every day, if we want to. But Kino's saying something that is true. He says, you know what? We're saying this, and these people are banking on you. They're banking on you. I'm not saying that that things are going to change. No, no, no. I'm telling you what Sweet Kid Kino has me transmitió a mí. Me transmitió. I don't know that word too much. He told me that, and he said, you got to tell them what's going on because you're doing a lot of work. Oh, say I'm not doing a lot of work. I'm just the voice. Kino's the brains, and he feels that everything that we're doing, they're copying from us. And Kino has a way to find out. Kino said, "Coño, the one that said this was Juan Felipe Nieves, and this mamatranca, is using what he's saying. Coño, he's using the same watch market update that I gave, not me. Kino to me, Joaquin to you. He's using my watch market update. So, Kino, he got a little bit, I told him, Kino, this is what we chose to do. This is what we chose to do. We did it this way, and you're right. I got to tell Kino that he is right. Kino, yo le estoy diciendo que tú tienes la razón. Kino's right, that they're using all of our material, from Mashugana to Lollipop Sucker to Window Laker to Possum Kicker, sandbags, crumb bums, all that, and they're that's what they're using, and that's how it is. And they're out there, ladies and gentlemen. There's even a young kid that Kino pointed out to me, and I said, "Oh my God, that's the Brad Pitt. There's a Brad Pitt, an English kid, that has Brad Pitt looks over there, over there on the other side of the pond, over there, over there where Charlie and Camila live, Charlie and Camila, they live over there." And he was telling me, "You're not gonna believe this, because there's people that I have respect for, and then suddenly you find out things. What's going on here?" So this young kid over there from the United Kingdom, he has Brad Pitt looks. He's over there saying now that he's gonna, his channel, you can't sell no more watches. You're not selling watches no more, so you need to get some kind of income because you were a professional at one time, and now you got into this business, y está muerto, y está jodido. So tú tienes que sacarle billete a la gente como tú puedas. You need to take out the shekels, the euros, the pounds, la plata, el dinero, los chelitos, in whatever way it is. So that kid over there, which I call the Brad Pitt, he's saying now that he has a membership, and you have to apply, and he's going to give you one-on-one training. Do you know how many trainings I've given you guys for free? You know that from chapter 1 to my spectacular chapter 28, so they come over here and they look at everything I do, and this is what they're giving these lambones out there, So I wanted to tell you this because Kino wanted me to voice it out. Eso lo dije ya, lo que hay. Whatever Kino decides to do, is what it is. I told you guys that my time here, is limitado. Es limitado. My back hurts, my rear end hurts, my arm is getting hurty, it hurts me. So, the time will come, that I have to keep on, exactly, selling courses. You know what that is, selling courses, using my catchphrases, using my, joda, ¿tú entiendes? No, joda. And you got all these lambones, all these lambones now. We're going to go to Geneva. We're going to go over there. We're going to push all these micro watch companies. Papi, let me tell you something else. All these people that went over there to Geneva and went to see all these different companies. I want you to know something. The numbers they were talking about in that show in Geneva, they were talking about 40, 38,000, 5,000, 60,000, Gerald Forsey, Debaton, Hublot, Toda esta pendeja. Let me tell you something. You buy one of those watches and you're in the desert. Let's take out Cuba out of the equation, right? Let's take him out of the equation. You buy any of those watches, they're coming over there from Geneva, those small little watch companies, you know? You buy it for $30,000 and you're on the desert with a broken motor, you're not gonna get a penny for that watch. But if you have a Rolex, if you have a Cartier, you know, something, a Patek, an AP, your money, you're gonna get somewhere. But if you buy those watches, those pushers, you know the pushers? You know, in New York we have pushers, we have pimps, you know, they will push, you know? They're pushing all those watches. Eso es mierda. No se embarquen con la porquería esa. Eso es mierda. You know, these are people trying to make money y la situación está jodida. Just to let you know what's going on. Be smart, no sean lambones y no sean pendejos. La situación está jodida, muchachos. Bien jodida. I'm going to give you a watch market update today. Ya le dije todo de aquí, ¿no? Ya. Cuando tú quieras, tumba. Tú tumbes más nada. Tú tumba. A good show, you know? So, you know what they're calling it, ladies and gentlemen? They're calling it mentorship. Mentorship. You know what it is? You know what that is? You know how many people, you know, Sweet Kid Kino has helped out there, you know, from giving away their wife's 401k, their children's tuition money. You know, we've helped out a lot of people out there, Papi. We've helped out a lot of people, whether you want to believe it or not. We have rattle, you know, mentorship. You know what I'm trying to say, Mr. Donut. You know what I'm trying to say. And it's sad, you know. And Kino was telling me that a lot of people are using our catchphrases. You know, they want to be like us, you know. You know, like that gentleman, you know, like that gentleman I call Eugene, you know, Eugene, a.k.a. Jacob McChicken. The SEC is looking for him, you know, looking for him. The SEC is looking for him, you know what I'm saying? You know, he's charging over there, you know, a membership, to keep on giving it to you deep, you know. Don't forget the name, Eugene, a.k.a. Jacob McChicken. The SEC is looking for you. I'm just telling you what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. So the owner of the channel is Kino, and whatever he decides to do, you know, remember, he can pull the plug on me. You know, like the way they pull the plug on that guy, you know, the guy from the Late Show, you know, I forgot his name. But these things could happen, right? No vamos a seguir más en esto. Vamos a darte un Watch Market Update show. You know what I'm trying to say. The moose is loose. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into the Watch Market Update. Our first watch is the Rolex Rose Gold Land Dweller. Reference number 127335, 40 millimeter. Retail price is $47,400. Yeah, that guy, J.O.B., that guy. And I'm going to tell all of you, ladies and gentlemen, you do whatever you want. You know, this has the chicken coop. You know, somebody showed me this word in the channel. They call it the chicken coop dial, you know? The chicken coop, you know? You're like a net, you know? White dial, beautiful watch. $47,400, 127334. Ladies and gentlemen, don't pay for that watch more than $64,500. You do whatever you want, right, guys? You do whatever you want. Like right now, I'm doing this watch market update. I told you 15 watches. They take that one, they put it, beautiful, Mr. Donald. You're on target, Papa. You're on target. They take my 15 watches, and you know, you have to pay to hear this. You got to pay them $20, you know, $10, $30. You know, you got the fake Italian, you know, flat top monkey eyebrows over there, you know, the fake Italian guy. You got that guy, you got this guy over here, that guy over there. You know, you got all these lambones, you know. If you go into their websites and you look in small prints, they got there, you know, come on one-on-one private, you know, you give me like the guy, like, you know, the guy, the subway train jumper, you know, he'll give you a one-on-one, you know, for 5 minutes, $20. So you add it up, every 5 minutes, $20, you know. I'll show you how to become a a watch backpacker, you know, la, 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 la. So all these people are concentrating how to become now teachers, you know, teachers, how to become a watch. Kid, I told you, over there in the UK, you know, Brad Pitt looks. He's going to show you how to become a watch dealer cuando no hay nadie comprando relojes. The only people that are buying watches is among themselves. Among themselves. Listen to me, ladies and gentlemen. You have another attack going on right now. This attack that's going on right now is they're putting now in all these different platforms. These people follow the same memo. They follow the same memo. Now they're saying that they put a land dweller. You know, the land dweller, just finished telling you. They put it there and they say it's sold in 17 minutes. It's sold in 22 minutes. It's sold in a record 3 minutes. You know, this is what they're doing to you. So you gotta watch it, what's going on. These people are inflating the watches again. You know, they're spoofing. You know what spoofing is? They're spoofing again. They're spoofing. And remember, I cannot do the job all by myself because it's only one of me and thousands of them. You understand? You know what I'm trying to say? Like this gentleman over there, you know, from Beverly Hills, you know, Feet Happy. You know Feet Happy? You know Feet Happy over there? Guys, you're not going to believe this. El tipo tiene una gandinga. This guy is unbelievable. He's talking about a watch that at one moment was $700, $500, $400,000. And he has this watch, an AP Royal Oak 26331BA, you know, yellow gold with a crayon green dial. And he's already asking for that watch without no tienen perdón, papi, no tienen perdón. He's asking $225,000. And I'll tell you all day, every day, don't pay for that beautiful AP Royal Oak yellow gold crayon green dial chronograph, you know, chronograph 26331BA. Don't pay for that watch more than $163,000. No coman mierda, no sean lambones, muchachos, no sean lambones. This is the real channel, papi. This is the real channel with the real numbers. They take that number now and they put it in their membership private thing, and that's the number they're going to give you. You understand me? You understand what I'm saying? And dropping. You know what I'm trying to say, ladies and gentlemen. Our next watch, ladies and gentlemen, is a Rolex Yellow Gold Oyster Flex Pikachu 40 millimeter, reference number 116518LN. Retail price of that watch was $29,950, and it's a collector's choice, collector's dream, collector's grave, collector's unit. You know, all those fantasy names they give to you guys. Don't pay for that watch, and you do whatever you want, but don't pay for that watch more than $41,500 and dropping. You do whatever you want, ladies and gentlemen. You do whatever you want. This is the number one watch market update show in the world. The only one, ladies and gentlemen. The only one, ladies and gentlemen. 26, you know, thumbs up, 31, you know, subscribers. Eso da pena, papi. Eso bochornoso. Eso muy bochornoso, muchachos. Muy bochornoso. When I'm giving you all this information, what they're doing to you guys, the way they're trying to, you know, assault. You know, esto como assault. You know, they're going to assault you, you know. La mano para arriba. Esto se jodió, you know. No pueden seguir así ustedes lambones, you know. I'm not going to be here forever, guys. I'm not going to be here forever. I got grandchildren that I want to play with, you know. You know, and this hour that I give to you guys, hour and a half, I could be giving it to, you know, to my grandchildren, you know. You know what I'm trying to say, Dr. E. You know what I'm trying to say. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a Rolex Yachtmaster Blue Dial, 40 millimeter, reference number 116622. Retail price of that watch is $12,000. It has a blue dial. It's an older reference, but don't pay for that watch. And I mean, don't pay, no matter what they told you, it's $11,700. You pay for that watch. You're the man. Cash is king. You dominate the conversation. You tell them, this is what I have for you. I have $9,800. That's what you have for them. You know, I don't feel like saying dropping today because my back hurts. You know what I'm trying to say. You do whatever you want with your money. It's your money. You do whatever you want. Ladies and gentlemen, our next watch is a beautiful watch. You know, it's a Rolex Submariner, yellow gold, blue dial, blue ceramic bezel, 41 millimeter. Reference number 126618LB. Retail price is $44,600. Don't pay for that watch. You do whatever you want with your money, but don't pay for that watch more than $35,000 in dropping. You do whatever you want. You do whatever you want, papi. No sean lambones, muchachos. Tienen que ser inteligentes. You gotta be smart, papi. These people, they have a big attack on you guys. They have a real big, well done, Mr. Donut, well done. They have a big attack on you guys, and they're going at it now. That they know already that the turkey is coming. The turkey. They know that the witch is coming. The witch, the ghost. You know what I'm trying to say? The skeleton, and then they know the turkey is coming, and then they know Santa Claus is coming. So they got to get prepared. They got to get prepared. For this attack that's coming. So be smart. Don't be dodo birds. Ladies and gentlemen, our next watch is a Rolex stainless steel Submariner, 41 millimeter. Black dial, black ceramic. Reference number 124060. Retail price is $9,500. Do yourself a favor and don't pay for that watch. Not because I have it. But I'm going to tell you what, you pay from $11,500 to $12,000. So you can be safe. Don't pay more than that, all right? Don't pay more than that. I have another Rolex white gold Smurf. Exactly, Black Friday. Rolex white gold Smurf, blue dial, blue ceramic bezel, 40 millimeter, reference number 116619, with a retail price of $39,650. You do yourself a favor and don't pay for that watch more. Does anybody know what I'm going to tell you? That the Smurf is dead. Don't pay for that Smurf more than $34,000 and dropping. You do whatever you want. If you're going to buy these watches, you want it with all the bells and whistles. You want it. You don't want a naked watch. You want it with all the bells and whistles. So you know what's going on. This is what I'm trying to tell you about our watch market update. Anybody can come and spook in my channel and just write down, and the next day they have an analysis for you. They have how do you call that word again? A mentorship, for analysis and watch market update. And let's get a little bit about the Fed. You understand me? This is how they do it. Let me get a little bit about the Fed. Let's get a little bit about the gold. How many channels? Seriously. How many channels? You don't need to BS me, man. How many channels out there are talking to you about gold? How many channels of your watch channels are talking to you about gold? Tell me. Tell me how many. Tell me how many are talking to you about gold. Not one person will talk to you about gold. Not one single person, but I will. Just think about that. Just think about that, guys. None. And they won't. Yes, they talk among themselves. Among themselves they'll talk about it. How many shows have you seen in the last couple of weeks that they have come out with a show of the watch show in Miami? Tell me how many. How many have made any content on the watch show in Miami? Tell me. None. So así, papi, so así, it's what it is, it's incredible, it's incredible. So, we're gonna make it harder for them, we're gonna make them wait here for a while so I can give them a watch market update so they can copy everything that I say and they can take it to the show, All right. Our next watch, ladies and gentlemen, is a Patek Philippe Aquanaut. It's a black dial, black rubber, rose gold, 40 millimeter. 5167. Retail price is $58,612. How much am I going to tell you not to pay for that watch? For the 5167. Rose gold. I tell you the retail price is $58,612. Anybody have an idea? I gotta know where you guys are at. I gotta find out. Okay, Google it. I give you permission to Google it, you know? Anyway, don't pay for that watch more. Don't pay for that watch more than $76,500. Coño, Mr. Donor. Wow. Our next watch is a Patek Philippe Aquanaut. Black dial, black rubber, 40 millimeters, stainless steel, 5164. 5164. Go ahead, guys. Copy me. Copy everything I say. Retail price is $42,580. What's the price of that watch? Go ahead, Mr. Donut. I'll give you another shot. Has been studying. Yes, he has. Does anybody know? Nobody knows? Okay, here it goes. Don't pay for that Patek. Stainless steel. 70. Okay. Jose think 73, Mr. Donut. All right, here it goes. He says 73, right, ladies and gentlemen? He says 73. Mr. Donut says 73. Mr. Donut says 73. You see it? 73, papi. 73. I don't know how Mr. Donut's doing it. I don't know. I don't know. You saw it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go into Richard Mille watches and drop him, Mr. Blair. Richard Mille watches. The RM6701 Ti titanium. Date, black rubber. This watch, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I'm not even going to get into numbers because these watches are dead. These watches, you don't understand that we were watching. We were looking at that channel, you know, Feet Happy. We were looking at it. And ladies and gentlemen, he's been struggling with Richard Mille watches for the last, I would say easy, the last 4 months. And the same watches that he's been pushing on you guys and every other, you know, review or whatever he says, you know what, I don't know what those people are professional, they know how to talk, you know, and you know, whatever they bring, you know, they open the box, they open la maleta, you know, la maleta, the suitcase, you know, and they have this, and they've been offering the same Richard Mille watches for the last 4 months, and nobody is biting, you know, and you're talking about he's asking for Richard Mille watches, 400, 600,000, you know. Ya los Lambones se terminaron. There's no more Lambones out there. There's no more Lambones. There's no more Lambones. You understand me? Ya no hay pendejo ya en la calle, papi. Es que ya, ¿sabes por qué no hay pendejo? Porque ya no hay SBA loans. There's no more SBA loans. There's no more PPP loans. There's no more government checks. You know, the government money has dried up. There's no money. What are you talking about, dude? ¿Cómo tú vas a pedir 600,000 caballas por ese reloj? And I'm going to talk to you about the watches that they have. I'm going to give you the numbers. The Richard Mille RM6701 Ti titanium, date, black rubber. Don't pay for that watch. You do whatever you want. Mira, Feet Happy. Here it goes, Feet Happy. Don't pay for that watch. And I'm telling you, I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm telling you, don't pay. Don't pay more than that. Don't pay more than $192,000. You do whatever you want. You do whatever you want, papi. This is a free course. You know, this is a free course. You know, that word they showed me is called, the word is called, you know, mentorship. This is your free mentorship. De gratis, papi, por ser lambone. Todo así, papá. There's another one here. Richard Mille, RM1103 titanium, chrono, yellow rubber. Unbelievable. Go see these watches. You go, coño. Look what Mr. Nieves is telling us. Don't pay for that titanium chrono. RM1103 Ti titanium. Yellow rubber. Don't pay more than $149,000. Papi, yeah. Look right now, ladies and gentlemen, so you can see 35 organic watch channel subscriber. I can tell you, I can bet all of you that 10 of them are looking for more content so they can give you some content with their membership, with their $20 membership, so they can give you an analytics and, that sketch, No comas mierda. Kino, no te metas. No te metas. Yo sé lo que estoy hablando. Tú tienes razón, Kino. Tú tienes toda la razón del mundo. No te metas. Kino trying to give me some shit here, Enough. Shit is not a bad word, right? Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, our next watch. What did you say, Alex? Oh boy. Ladies and gentlemen, our next watch is a Richard Mille RM029 titanium oversized date. You understand me? Oversized date. With a loop, Look at this, 39 organic watch channel subscribers. They came to copy everything for their show for free. Bravo, Alex, bravo, Alex, bravo. The 029 titanium oversized date. Somebody put there, ladies and gentlemen, I think somebody put there $100,000. Unbelievable. But ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be kind enough to tell you, don't pay for that watch, for the RM029 titanium oversized date black rubber. Don't pay for that watch more than $81,000. I mean, I'm not telling you to buy it. I'm just telling you what it is. Lady, you guys didn't believe me, ladies and gentlemen, that this will get full up when I do my watch market update? They write down everything. Boof, we said the same thing now. The same thing. And I get, I get these lollipop suckers, these crayon eaters, these tomato cans, crumb bums, sandbags, possum kickers, cow tippers. You know what I'm trying to say? And I give it to you for free. But they're going to charge you a membership of $30 for a mentorship, how to become a watch dealer. No comas mierda. No comas mierda. Ladies and gentlemen, our next watch is unbelievable. You're not going to believe this watch, ladies and gentlemen. This watch is unbelievable. This is the Richard Mille. Listen to me, when they would say the names of these watches back in 2021, papi, this is no lie. When I tell you about this watch, you're going to go, coño. This is a Richard Mille RM11. Hear the word, Lotus. Lotus, I think that's a car, right? A Lotus car. Lotus. Full TPT, like an STD. When the woman get an STD, TPT, STD, MTP, with a carbon sides. A Lotus. Unbelievable, this car, Unbelievable, ladies and gentlemen. And if I told you what that watch was at one moment, I'm not going to tell you because it's plastic, It's a plastic watch. And, se terminó, papi. El vacilón se terminó, el poliéster. La factoría de la China se jodió todo ya, papá. Esto está jodido. Esto está jodido. Esto está jodido, papá. Yo sé lo que te estoy hablando. Yo sé lo que te digo. Kino, no te metas. No te metas. Unbelievable that, TPT. What is that? I just call it STD. An STD. I have an STD watch. Look what I have, an STD watch. And that's it. And ladies and gentlemen, this carbon was out of control. Out of control. Out of control. Stupid money. You're in the Ferrari Italia. Bing, 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 bing. Why? Just giving you money como un loco. Como un loco. Like a crazy guy, Unbelievable. Qué cosa más grande, caballero. Ladies and gentlemen, don't pay for that watch. Nice watch. Thank you, Alex. Thank you so much. Thank you. You mean this watch, right? This one. Thank you. Don't pay for that watch, for that Richard Mille RM11 Lotus. Full TPT. Don't don't pay for that watch more than $216,000. You do whatever you want. Ladies and gentlemen, I said 216. They were asking for that watch, 490, 490, and they're still there. They're still there. I'm going with what my people tell me, my private people. Where the prices of Richard Mille watches are at, and then they're telling me they're still crumbling down, man. They're crumbling down like crumb cake. Like you never had crumb cake in New York, coffee cake, in la bodega. You don't know about that stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm gonna give you my last watch market update of the evening. It's been a lot of fun with you guys today. It's been a lot of fun. I hope that you guys have learned something today. And did you learn something about the Fed? Did I explain something about the Fed pretty well? I think I explained that to the best of my knowledge. You later on you go and you look at the Fed on your own and you say, "Coño, Nieves didn't say it. You said it wrong." But that's fine. But you understand what I'm trying to say? I'm taking you there. Estoy llevando el mono. Tú lo puedes llevar a tomar agua, al caballo. Drink water, the horse. You can take him. I'm taking you there. So you can look for it. And, you know what I'm trying to say. So, ladies and gentlemen, our last watch market update of the evening is a Richard Mille, is a RM. It's a RM. Mr. Donut, please, what is the name of the documentary that I'm going to see tonight? Please, tell me the name, please. If I can see it, let me know when you're going to put it up there. It's the Richard Mille RM005. It's a rose gold. It has I'm trying to see if Mr. Donald tells me the name of that documentary. I want to see it tonight. I want to put my earphones on, and my wife is going to be watching it. It's a blue rubber strap, right? Rose gold 005. Emmanuel 2025, okay? Emmanuel, stay away from STD watches. Gold or no gold. You're right, Mr. Blair. You're right. So that's 005, ladies and gentlemen. Do yourself a favor. And I got to tell you the truth. Don't pay for that watch. You do whatever you want, but don't pay for that watch more than $106,000. All right, guys? Thank you so much for all of you being here. It's been a great show. I hope you guys understand what's happening with gold and where it's heading to. I hope you guys understand that. No sean tonto, no sean retonto. Be smart, right, guys? Have a lot of vision and look at everything. Thank you very much for being here supporting the channel. All right, guys? And so now when you see those channels out there, selling you memberships, they're going to talk about, our show, what we say here, It's an open gate, Kino says he wants to close it. I told him no. He closes, I leave. That's what I said, okay? I'm telling you what he said. Le dije que si tú quieres cerrarlo, que si tú lo cierras, yo me voy, You know what's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much again. It's been beautiful being with you guys. I'm inviting you guys to my house, Thank you for everything you guys do for me. Gracias por todo. Gracias. Take care and brush your hair. Good night. Oh, let me see what it is. Oh, no. Thank you, Mr. Donut. The name of it is Emmanuel. The name of the documentary, Mr. Donut, Emmanuel. No. Thank you.